medical professional and you want to know how to make your money and savings work more efficiently for you, you're going to want to stay tuned because today we're talking about the time value of money. So no matter how early or late you are in your financial journey, there's some key takeaways. So you're going to want to stay tuned until the end. Have you ever wondered how some people manage to build significant wealth seemingly effortlessly? The secret lies in understanding the power of your money over time. So, by grasping key financial concepts like the time value of money and compound interest, you can set yourself on a path to financial success. So, in this episode, we're going to explore these principles and show you why starting early with smaller savings can be more effective than starting later with larger amounts, and emphasize the importance of consistent, uninterrupted compounding. So I want to clarify right now. I know we're all in different places in our lives, and some of us started early with just a little bit. Some of us are starting much later. And so I don't want this to discourage you not to start, but just to show you kind of what time is going to do. So there's no time like the present. Today, we're talking about unlocking financial potential, the power of your money over time. So time value of money. What is the time value of money? We call it TVM. So it's a fundamental financial principle stating that a dollar is worth more today than a dollar in the future. Why? Because today's dollar can be invested to earn returns while a future dollar lacks that important earning potential. And so the time value of money highlights the importance of time in financial decision making. So examples of time value of money. Okay, I want to imagine that you have $1,000 today and you decided to invest that in an account with a 5% annual interest rate. So after 1 year, your investment has grown to $1,050. However, if you receive $1,000 a year from now, instead of today, then you've missed out on that $50 of interest. So this example shows how money's value changes over time. Inflation is a whole nother bucket of worms that we're not going to get into today, but we're just going to talk about just the value of money over time. The magic of compound interest. What is compound interest? Someone famous said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And I'm going to show you why. So compound interest is the process where the interest earned on an investment is reinvested to earn more interest. So unlike simple interest, which is calculated only on the initial principal or the initial money, compound interest grows exponentially as both the principal and the accumulated interest earned returns. And so a simple way to look at this is like a snowball rolling down a hill. So imagine that we're starting at the top of a hill, and as it rolls, it's picking up speed and more snow, growing larger and larger and larger. So at first, that growth is slow, but as the snowball gains momentum and mass, it's going to grow a lot faster. So similarly with compound interest, your initial investment might grow slowly, okay? And a lot of us get discouraged because they say, well, I made, $50 on that. But over time, as both your principal and the interest accumulate, the growth accelerates, creating much larger financial return. So the key is to let that snowball or the investment keep rolling, right? We don't want to interrupt it. So let's look at an example of how compound interest works. So remember that that $1,000 that we had at a 5% annual return. So that's the same example that we're going to look at now. So year one, we had $1,000, we added 5% interest, and we got $1,050. So year two, we're taking the $1,050, we're multiplying that times 5%, and we end up with $1,102. Okay. Year three, we're taking the 1,102, so that's with the interest in there. We're multiplying it times 5%, and now we've got 1,157. So these numbers may not seem very big, but imagine we're only talking about $1,000. And what we're looking at is over a time window. You can imagine even that $1,000 over 10 years, over 20 years, is going to be something significant if we don't interrupt it. So compound interest is exponential growth versus a linear growth of simple interest. Okay. So we want that snowball to grow as big as we can. So how do capital gains and taxes interrupt our compounding? And so the simple answer is that interrupting that snowball is what we're talking about as it's rolling and accumulating, meaning we're stopping it. We're stopping it or we're going backwards a little bit. Okay. We want that number to keep growing forward. We don't ever want it to go backwards. So capital gains taxes are the taxes on the profits from when we sell an investment. Okay. This can reduce the amount available for investment and for reinvesting. And so capital gains are based on, they can be based on our income. Okay. And there's lots of talk when we talk about the political arena of changing capital gains. But basically, there's two things you need to know about capital gains. One is that if you sell an investment in under a year, then your capital gains are different. Those are called short-term capital gains. And what's going to happen is you're going to be taxed at a much higher rate on a short-term capital gain. So we want to make sure any investment we have, if we possibly can, and it's not in a tax advantaged account, we want to hold that for a year. And I'd say even, we may have that on our calendar and we bought it and the transaction went through at the end of the day, give it an extra day or so just to make sure that you're in the clear. Okay. So capital gains, long-term, short-term. In either case, if they're in a taxable account, so this could be just a trading account that's not in a retirement account, you're going to get taxed on those every year and you're interrupting your growth. Okay. So it interrupts our growth and it loses our compounding potential. So one mistake that a lot of people make this mistake, is that when we're talking about capital gains, and I say it's a mistake, but maybe it's the only thing that they can do. But when we're talking about capital gains, if you're paying those capital gains from the investment itself, right, you've reduced the compounding. So sometimes what you can do is you're paying the capital gains from a different account. So if you pay it from a different account, an outside account, then it's not going to interrupt the compounding because that money is still in there. Okay. So when we talk about lost compounding potential, when we pay taxes, as we said, we lose the chance to reinvest that money and benefit from further growth. So what are some solutions? Well, we want to use tax efficient accounts like retirement plans, or we want to hold investments long-term to minimize the impact of those capital gains taxes. So when we say long-term, we're saying it's over a year. But again, if you've grown, if you've bought, let's say you bought a stock at $100 and that stock grows to $500 and it's in a taxable account and you cashed out the investment, now you're going to pay taxable, long-term taxable gains on the $400 growth. So we want to avoid unnecessary tax hits to keep our compounding gains strong. Okay, so the power of starting early. This is huge for a lot of you out there. You may be in a younger generation, 20s, 30s, even early 40s, or you may be in a generation where you're giving some instruction to your kids. So starting early is one of the most powerful strategies in investing. And I want you to look at two individuals. We've got Alice and we've got Bob. Okay, so Alice is saving $200 a month at the age of 25, and Bob is starting later. And so he's saving $400 a month at age 35. So the first thing I want you to look at, we're not even looking at any growth, is that even though Alice is putting in a smaller amount, she's already $24,000 ahead of Bob on the savings alone. Okay. So imagine if she also has the investment compounding on top of that. So by the time they're both 65, Alice's investment is most likely going to surpass Bob's despite her lower monthly contributions. So we're not saying she's increasing the contributions. We're just saying her snowball has started rolling earlier, smaller amounts, but she's got a 10-year head start on him with a smaller amount. Okay. So why you shouldn't interrupt your compounding? Okay. Interrupting the compounding process can significantly reduce your investment's potential. Okay. Withdrawals or halts in contributions mean missed opportunities for your money to grow. Again, look at our snowball. Anytime you stop the snowball, anytime you take a chunk off the snowball, you've made it smaller. So consistency is the key. The longer your money remains invested in compounding, the greater the potential for substantial returns. So I'd like to make sure that this one sinks in. You need to make every effort that you possibly can not to interrupt the compounding. So I've been getting lots of questions in my employee not-for-profit webinars that I do about borrowing from your 401k and your 403b to pay off debt. So what I would say to you is that your 401k or 403b is not a bank. It's not a bank that you're using now. So what you're actually doing is robbing from your future self. So right now, if you're struggling and you're paying off debt, and a ton of people are in that situation, is that we don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. That's what they say. Okay. But remember, you're interrupting the compounding. So what I would suggest, one alternative that you can do is leave that money in there. The other thing is that I know we know that 401k is our money. Okay. If you take a distribution, the IRS is going to penalize you on taking the distribution right off the top, and they're going to tax you on whatever you take out. So the thought is, if you take a distribution, it's not as much money as you think. So let's say you're going to take a loan for $20,000 or take a distribution for $20,000 out of your 401k. Well, first, they're going to penalize you 10%. So you're going to pay $2,000. Now you're going to pay taxes on the whole $20,000. So when we think about it, that money's not exactly what we thought it was. A loan is a little bit different, but keep in mind that if you're taking a loan out, right, is that you've got to make a payment every month on it. So you're still making a payment. It's not like this indefinite thing out there that you're not making any payments. So one of the things that I suggest to people at times when they're strapped for cash and they're trying to figure out a solution and paying off some debt, because a common credit card rate right now is about 21%, is that maybe they stop their contribution for just a little bit and you determine what is a little bit. Is that 3 months? Is that 6 months? We're not talking long term, but if they stop contributing at the moment, then that snowball is still going on the inside and we're using some of that money to be able to pay on the debt. Okay. So it is going to slow down your rate. And what I'm saying is temporarily. This is not a long-term solution. You're not going to say, well, I'm just going to stop putting money in there, because our goal is to get you to the retirement that you want. We want you to be able to retire. We want you to know what those numbers are. And if you're not saving anything, you're never going to get there. Okay. So there's some strategies for maximizing the power of your money. We've already talked about starting early. You remember Alice and Bob? Alice had a 10-year head start. So $24,000 on her small $200 that she was putting in. And so what it shows is that even our small amounts can accumulate significantly over decades. So don't wait for the perfect time. The best time is to start now. If you've stopped for a little bit, please get back into it. Okay. We want to be consistent. We want regular contributions, no matter how small. And these small contributions can lead to substantial growth over time. Remember our subject today, time value of money. Set up automatic transfers to your investment accounts to ensure consistency. We do that a lot when we're at work and call a 401k, and we do it because we're not noticing that money is being taken out before we see our paycheck. So we like that. You can also do this if your check is being deposited into an account, at the bank. Even if you're just trying to build up a savings account, automatically do it so that you don't have to think about what you have to do. So diversify your investments. Spreading your investments across different types of investments can reduce risk and enhance your returns. So consider a mix of stocks and bonds and other investment vehicles to balance your portfolio. We just had an episode on that recently on asset allocation. You might want to take a look at it because we talk about that a lot. But importantly, we talk about the tax impact on your diversification. So we're looking at risk in the market, but also your diversification in taxes, as we're showing here on the interrupting, right? It's that whole interrupting thing. We want our money working as efficiently as we possibly can. And what I can tell you is on tax diversification is that's what I call our silent killer. It's the silent killer of our retirement savings. So we want to reinvest our dividends. Don't use your dividends to pay the taxes. Reinvest them. The dividends are the compounding, okay? If your investments pay dividends, reinvest them rather than taking them out in cash. Reinvesting the dividends can significantly boost our overall returns. And avoid any unnecessary withdrawals. Withdrawing funds from your investment accounts can disrupt the compounding. You've just stopped the snowball. So try to keep your investments untouched for as long as possible for maximum growth. So we've talked a lot today about how to get your money working for you and accumulating efficiently for our hard-earned retirement. I want you to look at retirement as a destination. It's a place that you want to go. A lot of people feel like retirement is so far out and they're not exactly sure what to do right now that they're not doing anything. But when that happens, if you don't start planning for it now, you're going to end up working a lot longer than you want to, or reducing your lifestyle versus having what you actually want at that time in your life. So you could push this all off, or we can actually hop on a call and have a conversation about creating a safe, optimized strategy so that you can retire when you want on the terms that you want. So do you want the 6-hour train trip with 10 stops along the way, or do you want the express train that gets you there in an hour? You wouldn't plan a trip around the world the week before you left. So don't do that with your retirement. It's actually the longest vacation of your life. So click on the link and let's talk about it. See you next week.